Okay then everybody, welcome to another Leicester Lives podcast in association with Igloo Staffing Solutions. As always, if you enjoy this podcast, don't forget to like, leave a comment, and please do not forget to subscribe. Now, in front of me this evening, I've got somebody else with an interesting Leicester life. Certainly one of the most talented musicians in Leicester at the moment, possibly, like I said, the most talented musician, Ryan Dunn. Ryan, thanks for coming along today and being a guest on the podcast. Okay then, Ryan, you know how it works. We like to roll it all the way back to the start. So tell me about your early life in Leicester.
Yeah, nice one, Justin. So I grew up in Belgrave, typical terraced house, quite a big family, all from around that area. So everyone were close by. Used to remember fondly the Horse and Jockey pub in the Latimer. They were like big memories, and probably my first memories in music really. So used to go in the jockey. There were a load of characters in there, and they all had their own songs on the jukebox and stuff. So everyone I meet, even like lads I still know from there now, we all like our old music and that. And I think it all stems from that. So that were a big thing. And then like the Latimer War Club. That was somewhere I grew up with, which would probably like the old, when you see it on the telly and that. Like obviously I weren't old enough to remember how the big days of the working men's clubs in the 70s and that, but it seemed like that to me in them days. You know what I mean? When we were kids and on big occasions, everyone get down there and you'd have all family and friends, and that was a good memory from around there. But you don't really get that much now around there. Obviously the concert rooms got smaller than the Latimer World Working Men's Club, but yeah, they were fun times. I love going up around that area really.
How long since the Horse and Jockey shut down now?
Oh, years. It's been a curry house for a few years now, so the building's still there. But I remember it was a big thing at the time. Everyone were fuming about it, and I think everyone moved to the Durham Mocks for a bit. So a lot of the lads that went there, but it was never the same atmosphere. Like when we grew up, all my mates, I still see everyone, all the kids and that we used to knock about, because shot when we were kids really. So I must have been about 10-year-old. I think the last night ever there was my mum's birthday party. It was like they'd stayed open just for that as like a last thing, and it was like I didn't realise how important that, everyone was like sobbing really, you know what I mean? Everyone was in a bit tearful mood about it last night. When you're a kid, you don't really realise you're too busy playing football around the corner and that. So, but yeah, some special memories from that pub really, and it's held me in good stead, I think, with music and everything like that.
How did you get on at school?
All right, yeah. Went Caffrine Junior School, Caffrine Infant School. So started there. At that age, you don't really think much, and you just get on with it, and you get in with the other kids and that. But as I got older, and particularly went to Rushmead Secondary School, I started. Yeah, I got into my music and that. It was quite a very multicultural school, so I was into a lot of different music to a lot of the kids there, you know what I mean? So I was a bit of an outcast really. I probably would have been at any school, but yeah, I dressed different. I got into my mod stuff quite early in that, when I was like probably the year 7, 8 at school. So when I got into that, as soon as I started dressing differently, and I never really got on with many people at school. So my life was outside of school, and I didn't really go very much in the later years, to be honest. I was always skiving, always off. I was even when you get to choose, I think it's year 9, you get to choose what you do at school for your GCSEs, and there was a carpentry thing, and it just meant you could get out of school 2 afternoons a week. So I remember doing that, and then after a couple of weeks I realised you didn't have to get to that, so that was it. I just out with my mates. All my mates were a bit older. I remember one time at school, used to go to a lot of gigs. This was getting on 14, 15, started getting into music. And I remember going to a couple of gigs, and it was like Friday afternoon, so I'd have the afternoon off school. And there was a pub, the Island Pussycat in Belgrave, just round Rushmead. I remember going in there one lunchtime, and there was one of my teachers were in there. And I went in there with my mates, only probably about 14, 15, he was a bit older than me. So he buying the beers, and we sit outside. My teacher comes out going, what are you doing here? And I went, I won't tell if you won't, you know what I mean? Because I knew they'd get in trouble for it and all. But yeah, really didn't get on at school. My mum always says now, like, how much I hated it there, but just weren't for me, you know what I mean? I was too busy, with my mind out, especially when I got into music, that was it. My mum were elsewhere.
And would you say, Ryan, because a couple of previous guests have said the same, the teachers weren't really that bothered about kids, in schools at that particular time. It was just very much a case of ticking them in and ticking them out again at the end of the day.
Yeah, definitely. I remember I used to have French class first class of the day. And I remember I used to always, that was glad I had it because I can have an extra hour kip, and they just used to sit there with my book in front of me pretending I was writing something, and they must have known I was asleep, you know what I mean? But yeah, I didn't really pick too much up at school, to be honest. Everything were out of school, everything on my mind were out of school, and I couldn't wait to finish and go and see my mates who were all a little bit older than me. So,
what sort of music were you listening to at home at that time?
Well, when I was 13, 14, that's when I really got into it. So my younger day, going back to like being in junior school and stuff like that, I was always around music. So my granddad, he was big into his doo-wop and his rockabilly, stuff like that, rock and roll, Elvis, Beatles. And I remember one of my fondest memories going around in his work van. He would probably annoy with me for wanting to help, but I thought I was helping at the time in working and that. And he'd take me to work, and I just remember sitting in his van listening to a load of doo-wop, and it didn't really hit me at the time, but I was consuming it all. And my mum and dad, they were into the scooter rallies and Northern Soul, stuff like that. So I was getting music from everywhere, live music, just from going to them things when I was little. And it, like I say, with the jockey stuff, that was the music and that in there. And it weren't till about 13, I was just football mad, like everyone is that age. Just used to go and play on the green outside the pub. Me, Fraser Green, Tom Green, all them that used to go down the jockey, we just used to go on the green outside, play football. That were it, you know what I mean, every day after school. And then when I was 13, I remember my granddad, I don't know how, I think it might have been the Twang, the first gig I ever went with, the Twang at Loughborough Uni. And I remember my dad took me, and I think it was 14, but me and Fraser were 13, so I remember my dad got his mate's ID from someone that he worked with. It was a Polish name as well, so it was like, you have to pretend you're Polish if you get in there. But we got in there, and I remember like that was it, I was up then, and I wanted to play guitar. Yeah. And I was 13 at the time. So I remember my granddad, he noodled a little bit with guitars. He had them all, he had a little bar, he's got a bar in his extension where he still lives now. And there were guitars on the roof and that, and I was always fascinated with them, but and I don't really touch them, you know what I mean? But and he didn't really play, but he knew little bits, and he took me to a car boot, and I remember telling the bloke, we bought this about a tenner, little old guitar, miles away from the fretboard, could hardly play it, but I was like in love then, you know what I mean? It was a tenner, and I remember the bloke saying, if you ever make it famous, you've got to come back and give me another tenner. So I'm going to hold him to that. If he's still there, I'll come back if it happens. But so that, and then I remember that afternoon, my granddad outside, he had a caravan in Inglemells. This was in Inglemells, like where he had a caravan, and he showed me a few bits. I think it was like Gene Vincent, stuff like that, and he showed me a couple of other little rock and roll riffs and stuff, and that were it. I took it away, and I was mad on it. Then that were it. Just played every night, doing my mum and dad's head in the bedroom, banging the broom up, you know what I mean? But yeah, I was just playing forever then, and that it all come to me then, all the music I'd listened to from being a kid, I just got into all that. So I remember seeing at Isle of Wight Scooter Rally when mum and dad took me, there was I think it was the Stone Roses tribute band, and they were that one of the first bands where I'd properly got in. I'd always been there, but you'd always be playing as kids, going out and you know what I mean, having like nicking your dad's drinks off the table and running around with your mates. But that first time I stopped and listened, and I thought I want to do this. So yeah, picked that guitar up and I got into all that. So my mum was into all the 90s stuff, so I nicked all her CDs, took them up to my bedroom. But then all that other stuff as well, like the 50s stuff, the rockabilly stuff, rock and roll. And I always loved that. But the Beatles were a big one for me. Yeah. Beatles were massive influence. My granddad, I basically got the same music taste as my granddad, do you know what I mean? I don't know what that says about me, but that was my thing. And the Beatles, I just went mad on the Beatles. And I had a couple of years where everything was just, bought all the records, trying to dress like John Lennon, do you know what I mean? Grew my hair out. Yeah. Can't do that very much now, but did it at the time. And we, I just went mad on the Beatles. And that was 14, 15, 16 when I was at school. Didn't want to be at school, just wanted to play guitar, going to gigs and pretending I was one of the Beatles, really, yeah. Was there
any support from the school for your music at all, or were they just not bothered?
No. I remember I actually went, once I left school, I chose music as a thing in college, because they made you pick. I think a lot of people at that age, you don't really know what you want to do. And they made you pick something for college, and I just chose music. Music were on there, so I chose music. And I remember going there, and I remember telling them I were into, at the time I was quite an Oasis fan. I don't really listen to them much now, but at the time I was. And I remember at college, the first week I went, they said, "You're all nervous, you've just gone to college." And they laughed at me because I was an Oasis fan. And they were all into the metal. And that was it. I went college for a week and I thought, I'm not going again, do you know what I mean? That was it. Didn't do it anymore. But I ended up working at Pallet Yard with my old man. But yeah, they at school as well, yeah, they were never really an outlet. I think there were a couple of teachers there that used to realise I was quite on my own and a bit of an outcast at school, maybe, yeah. Because, like I say, it was a very multicultural school, so sort of on a different plane to them with music and that, you know what I mean? And a couple of teachers used to, like, I used to get took out on trips sometimes, you know, either used to with the naughty kids, used to end up going out. Because I played up a little bit at school as well, but I think that more just because I just didn't want to be there. And yeah, we used to, there were a couple that knew what about and tried to encourage me with the music, but not necessarily helping with anything in terms of doing out at school with it.
That's what I suspected, because I was speaking to someone the other day and we were talking about, you know, schools do business studies, but they don't teach people how to be entrepreneurs. You know, schools teach music, but they don't actually teach people to become musicians, you know.
No, that's it, yeah.
It's just the name of a course, and then you attend the course, get the certificate, and then you probably do nothing with it afterwards.
Yeah, definitely agree, yeah.
When did you start to think, I can take the music a little bit further?
Well, I started going to the Charlotte, so around that time when I was 14, 15, like I said, all my mates were 18, 19 at that point, so I was like the young lad, taking me under the wing, and I think I got some fake ID or something stupid like that, and I were out all the time. Used to have to hide in the corner a lot of the times, where everyone bought the beers and then come out once everyone sat there, but yeah, I started going to the Charlotte a lot in them days, and that were like an eye-opener for me, because at the time it was a big scene then. I think it was like that. You don't really get it now, but bands were big. It was the indie thing, and this was like 2008, 2009, and there were just, you could watch any band at the Charlotte, and it don't matter who they were, how good they were, there'd be people there, and it'd be rammed every time you went. And I remember seeing like bands like the Cortinas, The View, people like that there, and it'd be as packed for them as it'd be for a local band that's wouldn't be any good, really, you know what I mean? And it was a great time, and I learnt a lot from that, I think. And just I ended up, there was a couple of bands. The first band I've seen that I really got into was a band called The Displacements from Blaber, and they were great. And then I got into a band called The Screening, who are still around now, as the Atlantics, I think, and they do a lot of stuff at the Donkey and stuff like that. And but really, the Heroes, there was a band called The Heroes, and they were the first band, because I was the young one, 14, 15, and they'd let me tune the guitars up before a show, and do you know what I mean? And I felt something special then, standing on stage at the Charlotte, thought of Billy Big Bollocks, like all the kids looking at me, and I was like, yeah, getting the girls a wink and that, but...
I would just like to say a massive thank you to everybody who watches and supports this podcast, and in particular to our sponsors. Our main sponsor, Igloo Staffing Solutions, and our IT sponsor, Whiteski Digital. Don't forget, if you enjoyed this podcast, hit like, leave a comment, and do not forget to subscribe. Now let's crack on with the content.
That made me realise that's what I wanted to do. Yeah. I remember, I think I was 14 when I wrote my first song. It was a song called Time to Shine. And a lot of the lads still request it now, actually, which does my head in, because I think like you're trying to progress as a songwriter and they're still asking something you wrote when you were 14. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's a good song, to be fair. I hate playing it. It's like my Wonderwall now, you know what I mean? Like, people shout it out, I'm like, I'm not playing that. But yeah, that was the first song I wrote, and I remember playing it outside one of their gigs, the Heroes gigs. I think it was the Shed, actually. And I remember my mate saying, go on, play that song, you know what I mean? And I played it. It must have been the worst performance you've ever heard, but I had about 12 pints as well. As a 15, 16-year-old, you know what you're like, probably sick halfway through the song. But I got through it, and like a few of the lads went, yeah, you've got something there, you know what I mean? It's a good song. And then I remember like going back to my granddad, who first told me to pick up the guitar, and be sitting in the bar with him, and his mates were all around there, and there was a guitar there, and he said, get the guitar out, play that song. I went, no, don't do stuff like that in front of people. You know, he was like, no, you've got to play, you've got to do it. Yeah. And I finally plucked up the courage to do it, and I got a bit of an applause, and I think that was it then. I got the bug, you know what I mean? I was like, well, people are liking it, I'm going to carry on with this. And then, so it took a couple of years after that. That's when I met my missus and that. I met her on one of we used to go on coach trips away with the Heroes and stuff, so we used to go home and away with them, and I met a lot of people through that, and I met my missus through that. So I ended up moving in with her at 16. A bit of a tale. My mum and dad probably pulling their hair out. If my dad had any hair, you know what I mean, he'd be pulling it out. But I was a bit of a nuisance back then. But I ended up moving in with my missus when I was about 16, and I weren't really talking to my mum and dad at the time. We got on like an house on fire, all of us do now, but at the time I was a bit of an idiot. But I ended up moving in with her, and so music for about a year or so. Music took a bit of a back step. I was too busy going out and getting drunk, and as you do that age. And then my mate Max, actually, we'd talked about being in a band for years, and actually lost a finger on a building site, and he got a bit of a good payout for it. And I don't know why, because it's the maddest thing to do, but the first thing he thought was, I'll buy a bass guitar. Now I've got 3 fingers on one hand, and I'll play guitar. So he done that, and he decided we were going to be in a band then. And he had this massive payout, and the only thing he got from it was his bass and my amp. He bought me this decent amp, which I still use now to this day. And that was the only thing. Everything else he blew up the wall. You know what I mean? I think I remember him buying a Vespa scooter, and he put our band name on the side of it, and ended up leaving it in the field. And he was one of them, you know, because we were young and that, and he had all this money. He didn't know what to do with it. I'm glad to say probably the only thing he ever got out of it was my amp. So I'm happy about that. But yeah, so we started a band, and I remember the first gig we ever done was at the Abbey on near Abbey Park. Yeah. And I remember thinking, this like I wrote a few songs, done an acoustic gig or two, and this was it, like a big gig. And I remember thinking, no one's going to turn up. We've done this gig at the Abbey, and I remember we'll come out into the bar bit, because they had this venue at the back, and it was like just a little room with a little doorway like this, like, it was just a tiny doorway, and it was a big long room. And I thought, if it was a fire in here and it was a big crowd in here, you'd be a goner, you know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't be able to get out. I thought, luckily there'll only be about 30 people here. So we'd had a little bit of a practice, went back out to the bar's full, and we were like, something's going on here, we're doing all right. If this is what it's going to be like, we'll be all right. And we went back out, come back in again, it was like twice the people again, then twice the people again. And I remember talking to, because you know Trav and that, and Trav told me a couple of weeks later, he goes, we couldn't get in, we had to sit outside and listen to it outside. It was that packed, this little doorway. And I remember just looking out, and there was just hundreds of people in this little pub, and I was like, could get used to this. It was all downhill from there, but it was like we had a ready-made crowd. I think just because we know a lot of people at the time from the gigging, and obviously we were going football a bit at the time, so you know a lot of people from the football and the tavern and that. So everyone just come together, and it was become this thing, like everyone come and watch her. No one knew how good we were, luckily. And we done this, managed to get through this first gig, and then it just went from there. And we didn't really take it seriously at the time. It was one of them things we'd liked when probably by this time I was 18, 19, so you didn't really take it as seriously as we should, and things didn't really crack on for us with that band, but it stood me in good stead, and it was a good learning curve, and I learned a lot from being in that band, I think.
And I suppose there's pros and cons when you take it seriously, and also when you take it not so seriously as well. Yeah,
that's it. I think we had a good time. I think that's the thing with being in a band. You've got to enjoy it. Yeah. That's the main thing. You've got to enjoy what you're doing. And like I say, a lot of lads were going on lads' holidays at the time, and we thought our thing was being in a band. You know what I mean? I remember there were a few times we went to London. There was a few bad ones where we'd played a gig one night, and we had the Friday and Saturday, so we thought we won't go to bed. We'll just stay up and do the gig on the Saturday. And they probably at the time we thought we'd done all right, but probably if I'd heard it back now, I'd be embarrassed. You know what I mean? But I remember one bloke saying he put gigs on for 25 years or something, and he goes, I've had the Happy Mondays and all sorts on. He goes, you were the most foot band I've ever had on. And remember, like, he had to wake me up on a settee. This was in Camden. I remember him waking me up on a settee, and I looked over, and then Max stood there in the other corner. You know what I mean? Like, couldn't stand up, but we managed to get through them, and probably better left unsaid, really, because probably the worst gigs I've ever done. But
I was going to say, if that was the worst, what was the best gig at that time?
In them days, just playing Leicester. I remember there was one at the Sound House, and because we weren't playing big O2s or anything then, but there was one at the Sound House, and it was one of the I think it was the first headline big gig we'd done ourselves, and it were in a proper venue rather than being in a pub like the Abbey, which we were grateful for. We did a couple of gigs there, but that were really good. Just when everyone started singing the songs back, I think, because we'd done a few recordings by then, and that was the first time I'd heard someone singing back to me. And I think that was a special moment that I remember a lot. But just stuff like that, and little festivals we'd done and stuff like that. We had a good time with it, you know what I mean? But I knew it weren't. There was something not there that I wanted more at that time, I think. But I was still finding my feet and writing. I've just got into songwriting, and I knew it was the beginning step. I knew it weren't the end with that band, really.
And just before we move on to the next stage of the music, we just got to go back to the Charlotte, because I mean, it's a travesty what's happened to the place, isn't it?
Yeah, big time. Yeah, it's like I say, that was somewhere for us to go. Kids like me that didn't really enjoy school. And I know you probably shouldn't be in there half the time. There's M18 gigs. The police turned up a lot of the time, but it was nice that you had that escape and you can go into music. And I know like guitar bands ain't the popular thing, and there's other things at the minute, and that might be what people are into. But it's just devastating that if I was starting again now from scratch, I wouldn't know where to go. You know what I mean? There's not them real venues now that you had them where you could, because we stopped. Charlotte had just shut when we started, but luckily there's still that scene going a little bit at the time. But we sort of built our own thing. If we'd have had to start from scratch, like I said, we had a ready-made fan base, really, just from the people we know at the time and stuff. And if we hadn't, I don't know how we'd have got started, because that's how you build your trade, them small venues. How are you going to get to the bigger stages if you've got no smaller venues to get there and play them little gigs where people are going to turn up at? So yeah, it is a travesty, I think. You
can't help feel, but if we were Manchester, if we were Liverpool, if we were London, it would still be open now. You know, they'd have made sure, you know, the public would have made sure, the council would have made sure. In Leicester, these things just seem to...
Yeah, that's it, because it's iconic. I know Leicester's not the biggest musical city in the world, but it was an iconic venue to Leicester, wasn't it? It's like when I talk to older people than me, and they talk about Granby Halls and stuff, and that shutting, and it's the same sort of thing. A lot of people seen like Oasis or whoever there, you know what I mean? And it's like the stuff that, when you look around the Charlotte, they used to have all the posters up on the walls, and it'd be all the people that played before my day, and you'd have like Oasis, Blur, Arctic Monkeys, you know what I mean? They'd all played there before I was old enough to start going there. And then luckily I've seen a few decent bands there, and you wonder now, where's that venue where the next big thing is going to come through, if you do come through Leicester, do you know what I mean? You've not really got it. It's a shame it weren't helped a lot more, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So what was the next stage of your music career then?
Yeah, so I was in limbo a little bit. I worked with a couple of other bands and stuff in that time, and just little bits and bobs helping out, but I was in limbo, and I started focusing more on my songwriting, and I think that's where it was a blessing really once that band ended, because I made my way as a songwriter then. That was where I was sat on my own and I was writing these songs, trying to build on what we'd done before and thinking of something else coming. So I wrote a lot of the old Gazelle tunes, which were like Finger on the Trigger and When Nothing Ever Happens. I was working at the Pallet Yard with my old man, and I worked there for years, and I used to sneak off into the canteen, and used to take my guitar some days. So I'd sit there trying to get paid for writing songs, really. And used to sit there and I wrote some of these songs, and Finger on the Trigger, that were based on that place where I worked at the time. I hated the place, and I remember it come full circle, and then we'll talk about it later, but that ended up being in the video for the song, the place I worked at. But yeah, that was a weird time, because I was in limbo and I didn't know what to do with myself, and I was still going out obviously on the piss with my mates and stuff like that, but I never had that outlet that I had with the band where you just doing it every weekend, and sort of felt a bit lost. But it gave me time to write them songs and come back bigger and better. And then obviously we did the Gazelle thing that come about. I wanted to do something else. I had all these songs built up, and then we ended up meeting, I think it was something on the internet that we'd got some way, it's like a dating site, but for bands, you know what I mean, one of them. And we'd end up talking to these lads, which were Ben and Sorbe from Gazelle. And we were chatting for a few weeks. I was sending the Gazelle, the old songs, and the new Gazelle stuff, and we needed a drummer. And then I remember being at my mate's birthday party, meeting Danny, and I'd met him a few times. And he gives it the Gallagher walk, doesn't he, Danny? So the drummer. So we used to. I remember seeing him a few times, thinking. He asked me if we were in the band now, but we're going, the old band. And he said he were a guitarist, and I went, oh, it's a shame, we need a drummer. He went, I play drums and all. I play drums as well. So I went, all right, we'll give it a go. And we all got together. The old Forest, remember the Foresters? I think it's gone now.
Yeah.
Down that way, and we used to rehearse opposite there. So we all met up, had one beer in the Foresters, a bit awkward, like, went into this practice room, still a bit like nervous, everyone was. And then as soon as we played a song, that were it, like, we gelled straight away. We were like, this is bang on, this is going to work. So we kept at that, and then we done a first gig at the Soundhouse again, which was like a continuation of the old band really, where we used to play. And we did a couple of demos, and then it really started taking off really. And then we got into the main stuff, and it started working.
And what year was this, Ryan? What year did Gazelle?
Well, now you're talking. So we split up. Was it earlier on this year or last year? Late last year, but I think it was 8 years being together. So we're talking 2013, 14, something like that. But no, 2014, 15 must have been. But yeah, that was when we first started. But it took us a while to kick on because we'd done a couple of demos, and we took ourselves away for a bit and tried to keep it under the radar for a while, and then we come out. When we done the first single, that when I felt it started properly, and we done it properly, and that was Where Nothing Ever Happens. So that was the first one, and that seemed to get a lot of traction, and that was like nothing we've had before really. It just seemed to spiral, and it got a lot of views on YouTube, and we've done the first proper music video we've ever done, really, well, I've ever done, and it just seems to stem from there, really. Yeah, we just seem to get up.
And could you just feel it was like I don't want to say a more professional setup, but it was like a different level.
Yeah, you're right. That's what it was. Yeah, it was more professional. I think I'd learnt my trade a little bit by then, and learnt from mistakes, staying up for 2 nights and playing gigs. You know what I mean? And we just that was the plan really. I just wanted to be a more professional outlet, and like Max, his own admission weren't the best player, and when we decided to call it a day with the first band, it was a mutual thing that I could push on and do something like this. And I think I made a conscious decision that I wanted to do something a little bit more professional, a little bit more flashy. You know what I mean? And make a go of it properly this time. And I think that first video showed it really. I
was going to say, I mean, it's not just the music. Some of the videos are pretty iconic, aren't they?
Yeah. We could go through it for ages, the videos. But I think that was a good way of telling the story of Gazelle really through the videos, because that meant a lot to us. It was an art form as well as because nowadays you don't get bands doing that. So because the days of MTV and that are gone. But I still see it as part of the thing, you know what I mean? It's part of the package of being a band. It says who you are, the videos. Yeah. So we made a big thing of the videos, and that first one was probably the one where we just rushed into it a little bit, and didn't really know what we were doing. But from that point on, the second one we got Stephen Graham in, and that was a turning point. But then we made a rod for our own back because we had to have good videos. Once we've had Stephen Graham in, you've got to pull it out of the park, haven't you?
And how did that come about anyway?
So I was in a pub in Nottingham before we were going to see Noel Gallagher, and I remember we was just chatting. I think a few of my mates have been out for fag because I don't smoke, so you're the numpty sat there on your own, like, trying to get something to do. So talking to this bloke at the bar, and he said he was mates with Stephen Graham. He was like, I think I'll show him your band, because we were talking about music, and I didn't think of it. A few months later, I got a phone call from, it was an email from Hannah Graham, Stephen's missus. She's like a good actress in her own right and stuff. And she said, we've been listening to your band for a couple of months, and we're loving it. She goes, Stephen will do a video for you if you fancy it. And we went, oh, yeah, brilliant. You know what I mean? Like, obviously buzzing about it. Yeah. I was like, I didn't want to show, like, yeah, can do. You know what I mean? Like, and so we arranged it, and he was a busy man at the time. Obviously, always busy man. He was doing something in there. So we arranged it for a couple of months' time. And I remember we turned up, in the first scene I wanted to do, because it's Finger on the Trigger, where I wrote this song, was at the Pallet where I worked, and it's about that place. So I said, I want to do the first scene there at that Pallet Yard, is where he works. Yeah. Just so I could take him while we were all sitting on the beer, and all my mates that used to work there are working. Yeah. I could bring Stephen Graham and go, big time now, you know what I mean? But so we took him in there, and I remember thinking, when we were all sat at my old workplace, and I'm thinking, this better not be one of my mates winding me up now, you know what I mean? Imagine how bad that looked. I've told everyone that I used to work with that Stephen Graham's coming down, he don't turn up. Luckily, he come down, he was brilliant, like, he was basically telling the cameraman how to direct it, and he wanted the best for the video as we did, and he would give me, because at the time I had an idea for the next video, which was Guilt Trip Gun, which was one we did, which was about the First World War, because I'm massively interested in the First World War. So I wanted to do that, and he would give me all these ideas, and he would like buzzing about it, like you should do this, you know, like he was proper interested. Can't thank him enough for what he did, and he still gets in touch every now and again and says, I've mentioned you in this magazine about the music videos we've done and stuff like that. But yeah, it was a massive eye opener really, and that was stood us in good stead, I think. And that was the time where I think Gazelle went from going like that to like that at the time, and it was a big turning point for us, I think. And we did a gig at the I can't remember what it's called now, but Dryden Street Social, and that was the first gig where we looked at, and it was massive. It was a big venue, and we were like, I'm going to sell this out. I remember looking through the curtains, and it was like that because of that video. And the songs were good, but that got it through to people, got people watching it. So. And that exposed us to a lot of people, and I remember that was the turning point for Gazelle. I think that after that video and looking out there, and it was just massive people, it was like, yeah, brilliant.
How many views has that video got now, would you say?
I don't know. I don't really look. Our manager Steve will tell you, because he's big on that. He's always telling me how many views we've got on YouTube. I'm not very. I try and keep off social media and stuff like that. So I'm not. I only have it because I do the band stuff. I could try and keep myself away. I write my songs and keep myself to myself, really. But yeah, I think it has had quite a lot. I know. He told me the other week that altogether, you can see what video we've had, like 250,000 views or something on all the videos altogether, which I was quite proud of when he told me that the other week. So we've done well with that.
So what was say the best gig Gazelle did? Would you say?
That were a good one because it was the first bigger one we done. But I really enjoyed the O2s. I think the O2 one we done the Gazellevis thing, which was my idea. Might have been silly, or might not have. But the other lads, I don't know. I didn't think they were too keen on it at the time. But I thought it'd be something different rather than having your typical support bands. I said, why don't we get some Elvis geezer in? Because me and Steve and manager went to see some Elvis tribute. I was like, it was probably a drunk idea at the time. I was like, imagine getting like Elvis to play with you. And we got it to work, and we done that, and that was one of the gigs towards the end, really. But that was a special moment. And he come out and done a few songs on stage with us, and it went really well. I think that's probably the highlight. When I look back on it now, that was the one that I was most proud of at the time. Done a few decent like festivals, and like a couple of gigs supporting Tom Meehan were good and stuff like that. But yeah, that was the one that I think I was buzzing with when I come off, and I was like, yeah, we've done well there, you know what I mean? Because I think we were panicking before the gig, thinking, is this going to work? Because it was my idea to do and obviously they can turn around and go, what you done that for? So I think when I realised it had worked, that was like a lot of weight off my shoulders, and we had a good time, you know what I mean? It was brilliant. Everyone seemed to enjoy it. A few Elvis songs, you can't go wrong, can you?
And I was going to ask you maybe what the low point was, but I can probably anticipate what it is, because you're on the way up, and then that COVID shit show happens, and suddenly everything stops, and doesn't just stop. Arguably, it goes backwards for Gazelle. Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. So that was that. I honestly do think if it weren't for that, we'd have been there. You know what I mean? We'd have got where I wanted to be, and it seemed it was going that way. Everything going up, the gigs going bigger and bigger. And we'd been played a couple of times on Soccer AM at the time. Radio X were playing us for a little bit, and we were getting little bits like that. And Soccer AM had put us on the goals of the week. Yeah. And then they messaged us saying they were going to put us on the end of season show as just a finger on the trigger to play it out. So we knew they liked the tunes. And the next thing it was we want to get Stephen Graham on the sofa, and we want to get you on with us. And this was, I think Leicester were playing Arsenal that weekend as well, so in London. So we thought, we've got this weekend planned. We're going to go on the sofa, have a chat, play live. And a lot of bands like now that are getting big, the K's, they've just had, I think it was number 1 or number 3 album, something like that. And they were on the week before. So this was like a bit of a catapult at the time for bands. The Lathams or them, they were on the show. And
so yeah, we had this big thing planned. Arsenal away, and then down to Soccer you know what I mean? What a day out.
Yeah.
And I've bought a new jacket ready for it and everything. And then next week you hear, football's cancelled, COVID. And the thing is, what annoyed me, Soccer never reached out to us. We heard the show cancelled, but they never reached out to us to tell us, even though we were booked on the show. And then they never heard from them again.
Poor form, that, yeah.
So yeah, that was it then. And although I reckon COVID was a big time for me, songwriting-wise, where I think I wrote some of my best stuff for Gazelle. And I was on a vein of form, and the songwriting's changed, and I was getting more into my older stuff, that like going back to when like my granddad's stuff and all that 50s, 60s stuff. I was listening to a lot of that, and I was songwriting. I think we're getting a lot more mature, and I was happy. I was buzzing with the music at the time, but we never seemed to reach. It just never plateaued then, and it would never reach their marks again because.
Yeah.
And then I think when we did release stuff, it was always that thing. Gazelle have been around now. They're not a new band anymore because we had them 2 years where we couldn't do anything in COVID because we'd literally released our last single just before COVID, so we had nothing ready. Couldn't go in the recording studio. So by the time we did record, it was like, Gazelle, they've been around 4 or 5 years now. It's nothing new or exciting anymore. But yeah, I think I wrote some of my best stuff then, and it's a shame that's the way it went. But I think we could have had a great album from that if we'd have carried on that trajectory that we should have done.
What were the first couple of gigs after COVID?
Now you're talking. I think when Ambition did like a big O2 one or something like that, but because it was like the first one away, and we were still getting crowds, but it just, I don't know, it just felt like it weren't right. Do you know what I mean? But we did an EP. The first thing we did after COVID was get straight back in the studio, and I wrote about 13, 14 songs because I was off work. So I was a barber at this time, and so we couldn't work anyway. So I thought I'm going to treat it like a full-time job. I'm going to just write songs, sit there all day, write songs. And I wrote some of the best stuff that I think I've wrote. And we went back in the studio, did these songs, I was buzzing about it, but it just that thing weren't there anymore that we had before. And unfortunately, and I think like some of the other lads will probably say the same, we started getting a bit disheartened with that, and it just sort of fizzled out from there, really. We still had some good times. We still had some good, like I said, the Elvis thing, and point in time, me and we had some great gigs, and people were still into it, but there was just something there that weren't there before that, I think.
Well, that's it. You know, if you're an accountant or sell photocopiers or whatever, a couple of years out doesn't really make a great deal of difference, does it? But when it's a band, 2 years is a massive amount of time to be without a gig, without a release or whatever. Yeah.
Well, nowadays with social media, 2 months a big time out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So everyone, this is the thing that I don't really like now with social media. They tell you want to release a song every 3 weeks, and if you appreciate your art and want to do it, want to put your best stuff out there, putting a song out every 3 weeks ain't really. It's not the thing to do, is it? You want to put your best stuff out, and everything I think now is about what you see on social media, and you've got to be on there, or you've got this is how you look, and you've got to do a reel or do something stupid on Facebook, and I've never really been about that. Do you know what I mean? To me, it's about the art and the music, and you should take yourself seriously about it. And that I think that's nowadays the time between songs and stuff is a lot more important than it was years ago. Because years ago you could go like 6. Beatles used to do an album every 6 months, but other bands you can go like a year or two without an album. You can come back out and you still be there.
Yeah.
Whereas now everything moves so fast that you ain't got a chance. If you go away for a split second, you're done. You know what I mean? And something else comes along. And
so when did Gazelle start to think maybe we've reached the end of the road?
Oh, now you're talking. But this for a while. I think we've all thought it for a while, but no one really wanted to say it. And like I say, I wanted to change the sound a lot. Like with Lady Blue Sky, which was our last single, which I think was our best single, and that did well. We did number 1 in the iTunes chart with that, so we still had the fan base there and we're still doing well. But yeah, that was the one where I was really trying to change the sound, and I think some of the other lads weren't as keen on doing that, or I don't know. You'd have to ask them, but it was just a time where I got the feeling that everyone was just a bit had enough of it by then. It was 8 years by this point, so and obviously your life changes that much in that period of time, and some of the other lads had families and jobs where they couldn't commit to practicing as much, and I just wanted to push on. So yeah, we just decided it weren't working. There were no hard fit. It was all amicable. You know what I mean? You know, we're all still friends, and we still hopefully we still will be. And we're meant to be having a beer to celebrate the end of Gazelle, which hasn't happened yet, but hopefully it will do. And yeah, I just wanted to push on, and I've still got that vision and feeling I can do it. I've got something to offer with my songwriting and stuff, and hopefully I can show that. But I feel a bit more less restricted in the fact that, not that lads were restricting me, but I can do my own thing songwriting wise now, and I've not got to like put it on anyone else if I want to change something up, and it's given me some freedom to just do what I want basically now. So
you went out on another big video, didn't you, on the top of Hogarth there?
Yeah. We're trying to do the Beatles thing, weren't we?
Yeah,
because that Get Back had come out not long before, so it was like, yeah, let's get a bit of Beatles thing in. I went for a bit of a dodgy suit and all that video, but I remember Missy coming down and she said someone had upped the speaker up and that, and it was blaring out. She was like miles away down this, near our house, and like miles away. She was like, I can hear it from our house, you know, it's that loud. I remember we attracted a few people, everyone come out the tavern and everyone were out there, but I love that. That was another brilliant video. Yeah. We've done a few good ones, like Magic Carpet Ride, that was so we've done that in Belport, and my granddad, like I said, I'm into the family history and the First World War stuff and that. The First World War stuff got me into the family history stuff, and I've got a proper like nerdy thing with that. Like I love looking it up and that. And I knew my granddad was from Belport, so I've delved into that history, and I found all these great stories from my granddad's side of the family, and found a lot of letters from the First World War, which was his granddad, and he died in the First World War. And he was, he was from Belper, so I went down the houses, and I remember my dad told me, it's the first time I went Belper, I want to go and see his house where we lived. And it ended up, my dad went, I've got a mate from the scooter rallies from Belper, so I'll come with you, and we'll go and meet up with him. Obviously, bear in mind, Belper's quite a big town. And we went, a lovely place, and we went, I met up with my dad's mate, and he went, where's his house you want to see then? He went, oh, it's on Penn Street in Belper. He went, what number? I think it was like 57, something like that. He went, it's my house. So it turns out, like, my old family home is now my dad's mate's house. He bought off our family, which was mad. So it was not long after that we decided I want to film a video with it. It was a lovely place, like, and we got Danielle Watson from This Is England. She wanted to do a music video, so we did it with her over there, and that was a special video because it had all these houses that meant something to me from our family, like the Varney side, my mum's side, and. Even the pub, there was a pub scene in that, and I found out that the pub was owned by my family generations before, and that was a very special video. So every video means so much to us. You know what I mean? There's a lot of thought into the videos with Gazelle.
Well, like I said, they are fantastic videos. They really are. You know, and I mean, anybody who watches this and who hasn't seen the videos wants to get onto YouTube and take a look at them because definitely enjoy it. So you got this gig coming up on the 1st of June. Well, second gig, I did see you playing in Lofty Sports Bar the other day.
Oh, yeah. Mate, it forced me into that, he did.
But first proper gig, where's that at and what's the details there?
Yeah, well, he'll tell you off saying it when it's my first proper gig. It was a shirt and tie event, wasn't it, in his shed.
Yeah.
But he likes a bit of that. But yeah, this is the musician on the 1st of June, and it's, like I say, from the first one on my own. I've got a band together now, so we've got a backing band, but this will be an acoustic gig just to get my songs out there and show what I've been working on. But I've been in the recording studio over the last. I'm still in there now actually, so it's been a bit of a process. But I'm buzzing with what I've done. I think it's the best work I've ever done. And then we're working towards an album which will be out hopefully the end of this year, next year. So this is the start of an album, and it's the start of a new period, I think. So this gig will be the start of that whole process, and I'm really buzzing for it. Yeah, the musician.
And is it going to be a different sound from Gazelle?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, I didn't want to do the same thing. You know what I mean, with the Gazelle's done now, so yeah. But like I say, I was trying to steer it into a different direction anyway. This is a lot more bluesy, really, a bit more of an Americana sound. I was just trying to put on, because like I say, I love all my rockabilly. I love Johnny Cash and the older stuff, and I love a bit. There's even a bit of country in there. Do you know what I mean? It's very, very different from Gazelle, really. But it's still got that core songwriting thing in there. So I think people still enjoy it, and But yeah, it's very a bit more musical and a bit more adventurous really than Gazelle was. But I'm buzzing with it. I think it's going to be the album that I'm going to be proud of.
Yeah.
It's the album I want to make, and I'll go to my deathbed knowing I've made that album. I want to do.
Any sort of time span on that album at all?
At the minute, it's hard to say. We've done 4 tracks, so these will be the first couple of singles, and we're doing it in 4-track periods. Because, like I say, it's the money thing at the minute. It costs a lot. This was the thing with Gazelle. When we said about it petering out and stuff, with music now, it's all about money. It's a business, and you have to pay PR, and that's why you don't get working class bands anymore, because it's all the money you put in yourself, and it's an hard graft, and it's. Any band you hear of now, they all come about immediately, and it's all money behind them. It's not what you think it is. Working way through the venues like the Charlotte anymore, and doing it that way. So that was a big thing with Gazelle. We never had that funding, but we've got some money together now, and we're trying to do it bit by bit and get this album done, and at least have that album there as a basis. And it's going to be the best thing I've ever done, I think. So the time period, maybe hopefully end of the year, but it might be a bit longer. But we've got some coming out in the next week or so. So that'll be the first part of the process for the album. So it's not going to be very long at all till we've got something out.
And if there's a 13, 14-year-old kid at the minute sitting in their bedroom, a bit fed up with school, doesn't really want to go tomorrow, but they've got a guitar in their hand and they fancy making a stab at the music, what advice would you give them?
Don't try and go on Soccer AM just before COVID. Just be yourself and just keep writing. Don't listen to what's all over the internet really, and keep yourself off social media and tuck yourself away in your bedroom and write and just go out and watch gigs. You know what I mean? They are still going on, few and far between, not like it was, and not quite the crowds, but there's still people out there that are doing it. You know what I mean? And learn what you can, and just believe yourself, I think. But same again, like I say, just lock yourself away and write. Don't worry about what anyone else is doing. Which is what I've never done. Never worried about what other bands that are around us are doing. Do your own thing. And I think that's what stands you in good stead as a songwriter. Do your own thing, and you learn from what you listen to and what you like, rather than what everyone else is around you is doing.
Yeah. And to finish off, Ryan, what's your opinions on Leicester as a city now? Because you've mentioned working class culture, and I've mentioned it on quite a few podcasts as well. And working class culture has changed a lot in this city, and the city's changed a lot over the last 5, 10. You just name a figure. To be fair, what's your thoughts on Leicester as a place these days? Yeah,
even from watching your podcast, like it's a lot different, and hearing what like people I know say. It's a lot different even from when I was a kid, and when it's changed so much since from when I was a kid. And like I want to get out now. Really, like city life's not for me anymore. I want to go out in the country, and as soon as I can, I want to get out. Like places like Belper, you know what I mean? In the country, maybe that's just because I'm a miserable bloke these days, but I want to get out there, and it's not. It don't seem that community's not there that used to be there. Like I say, going around them pubs when we was at the Latimer and the Horse and Jockey. Don't really get pubs. I think like a lot of my mates tend to, when they go on a night out now, it's not the local pubs. You have to go and meet in town, and that's not a very nice area a lot of the time anymore. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, it's not somewhere I really want, because I've got 3 kids now. It's not really the sort of place I want them brought up in. Really, I think you feel like you've got to get away a little bit nowadays. Yeah. Whereas when I was a kid, you didn't feel that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. A few people have said that, and I think just the same. I've been on that same journey myself. From Leicester, moving out to the sticks a bit, and moved a little bit further recently as well. And mainly that's because of kids and stuff like that. I think you just got to look that little bit ahead. So, well, Ron, thanks ever so much for coming down today. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm going to try and make it down on the 1st of June anyway, because I think it should be a good night. So
top man, just saying. Yeah, should be good.
Thanks very much for your time, mate.
Top to see you, mate.
Lovely.
Nice fun.
Cheers.